Hello, and welcome to this video where we're going to take a very brief overview and examination of the ethical system of value theory. So within the ethical system of value theory, we basically have to ask a question: what is it that humans value? And so what is it that we consider to be valuable? And therefore, if we determine what is going to be valuable, we can determine what is kind of the goal, or what is the thing that people are going to be seeking. And so if you think about this at a very basic level, what are the things that are considered valuable? Money, in reality, is something that is viewed as being valuable. But if we go beyond those kind of tangible goods, what is going to be considered valuable? For other people, it may be joy, or if we take a look at it in a very philosophical sense, we could consider the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as being something that is important and valuable in its pursuit. Now, the German-American philosopher Nicholas Rescher, working at the University of Pittsburgh, has identified 8 categories of basic values. And so these could include things like material and physical value, so things that provide us with the health, the comfort, the physical safety that is hopefully present in our lives. There's economic value, things that come with economic security and productiveness, and so having a sufficient income to be able to provide for your housing, to be able to provide for the food that is necessary for life. Moral value, and so the value in the pursuit of being an honest, fair, and kind person. Extending beyond the moral values, things like social values. Social values are going to be interacting with other individuals, basically in a social setting. And so being polite, being gracious, being generous, acting well towards other people that we are interacting with. Rescher's 8 basic categories of values continue, and taking a look at political value. And so, the ability to express your views, freedom, the ability to work and live in a just society where you're not going to be penalized or punished unfairly for things that are kind of beyond your control, or being punished simply for who you are as opposed to what you've done. Aesthetic values, so taking a look at things that have inherent beauty in the symmetry and grace of the objects. Religious values, again continuing on with Rescher's basic values. Religious values, the ability to pursue a religion, to be able to be religious, and then to express and follow the faith of a religion. And so showing the traits of piety and obedience. And then finally, the last of Rescher's 8 categories of basic values is intellectual value, the value through the pursuit of knowledge, to gain intelligence, to gain clarity about the world around us. So with this definition of values, we need to think about what are those values going to be associated with it. And so we're going to think about the goods. We're going to think about what is it that is going to be manifesting or representing the values that are going to be pursued. And what we're going to see from a philosophical standpoint is that there are going to be 2 types of goods. The first of those goods are going to be intrinsic goods. Now, an intrinsic good that is going to be something that is going to be viewed as valuable or worthwhile on their own, solely for the purpose of having that intrinsic good, and so they're worthwhile on their own as opposed to leading to something else. And therefore, these intrinsic goods are going to be desired because of their nature. They're going to be desired because they're going to be recognized as being valuable. And they're not derived from other goods. And so they are solely valuable in and of themselves. And so examples of this would be joy and pleasure. And so kind of representing this, I've got a mural painting from the Jain Digambara temple for Jaipur, indicating kind of the pleasure and pain inducing karma. So in this case, we've got an individual that is licking honey from a sword and inducing both pain and pleasure kind of simultaneously. Now, in contrast to the intrinsic goods that are valuable in and of themselves, we have instrumental goods. So instrumental goods are going to be the second category of goods. Instrumental goods are going to be valuable because they can lead to something else. And so money would be an instrumental good, at least for most people. And so if you have money, that income is going to allow you then to purchase something, or at least to obtain something that is going to be an intrinsic good, something that is going to be valuable in and of itself. And so again, these instrumental goods are going to be valuable because they lead to something else that is considered good and valuable. And so these instrumental goods are going to be desired, they're going to be pursued because they're a way of attaining those intrinsic goods. And so examples of that, education, that pursuit of knowledge could become an instrumental good. Because if you have an education, that's going to lead to a good job. Hopefully that good job is going to be associated with an income. And then with that income, you're going to be able to pursue those intrinsic goods that you're interested in, something that's going to be desired. At a very basic level, we've described this in the role of money and happiness. Does money buy happiness? Does the money provide the resources? Money as an instrumental good provide the opportunity to pursue the intrinsic good of happiness. And then finally, a final example of an instrumental good is modern medicine. Medicine that can cure a disease, or at least alleviate the symptoms associated with the disease, are going to contribute to the intrinsic good of better health when we consider it that way. Now, with this definition of intrinsic goods, goods that have kind of inherent value because they are desired within them, as opposed to instrumental goods, which are going to be goods that allow you to pursue something of value, and basically pursue one of those intrinsic values, there are going to be two broad approaches to seeking what is desired, two broad approaches to seeking what is good. The first of these is going to be an hedonistic approach. Hedonistic comes from the Greek word hedon, associated with pleasure. And so for hedonists, the goal is to seek that which will give pleasure. And the goal of a hedonist then is to obtain pleasure in some way. And therefore, an hedonist is going to view pleasure as being the ultimate good. In a very basic sense, hedonists view pleasure as the only good. And in this way, pleasure is going to be viewed as an intrinsic good. And so if we take this and then compare this with the alternative to this, these are going to be the non-hedonists. The non-hedonist recognizes that pleasure is desirable, but pleasure is not the ultimate desire. And therefore, non-hedonists view pleasure as being an instrumental good, and so that pleasure is going to give rise to the opportunity to pursue other things that are a more ultimate desire. So if we extend this hedonistic view that pleasure is an intrinsic good and is the sole good to be pursued into an ethical system, what we can see is that for hedonists, the moral rightness of the act, the appropriateness of the act, the kind of the ethical action would be that which produces pleasure through that act. And then so for a hedonist, that which is going to be ethical is going to be that which provides the greatest pleasure. So if we break down this hedonistic ethical view, within hedonism are going to be some subcategories. And the first of these subcategories are going to be sensualists. Sensualists are going to be equating all pleasure with sensual enjoyment, kind of in the definition. And so their ethical system is going to be to focus on sensations and focus on perception. And then so for a sensualist, what they're going to be doing, basically, they're determining that the ethical actions are going to be those that allow them to pursue physical pleasure. And basically, for a sensualist, what they're going to be doing is they're going to basically want to do what feels good. And they're going to want to avoid doing what causes them pain or discomfort. Now, still within the hedonistic ethical system, in contrast to the sensualists that basically are going to be pursuing sensual pleasure, the satisfactionists equate pleasure with satisfaction or enjoyment. And so again, they're recognizing the goal of pleasure, but they are viewing this pleasure as not coming necessarily from sensuality. And so for a satisfactionist, they're basically viewing this pleasure coming from other things that contribute to living a good life. And so as opposed to sensualists pursuing that which feels good and that which kind of avoids discomfort, for a satisfactionist, the ethical appropriateness, the determining whether to do something or not to do something, the rightness or wrongness of the act. For a satisfactionist, they're going to be doing what makes them happy. And so they're going to be obtaining their pleasure from that which gives them happiness in the action of doing it. So if we take a look and consider this hedonistic ethical system, what we're going to see is that pleasure is going to be on a scale. And then the goal of this ethical system is going to have the practitioner to be acting in a way that is going to give them the greatest amount of pleasure. And so for a sensualist, basically the goal is to try to obtain sensual enjoyment through their actions and avoid the physical pain, and doing things that are going to be higher on the sensual pleasure scale. In contrast, a satisfactionist is going to be doing those things that give them greater satisfaction. They're going to give them kind of greater happiness. And in determining what is kind of appropriate, determining what is right and what is wrong, they're going to be trying to avoid things that are going to give them displeasure or giving them dissatisfaction. Okay, so thank you for listening to the first half of this video on value theory, focusing in on the hedonistic view, the hedonistic ethical system. In the second video, we're going to be taking a look at the value theory in relationship to the non-hedonistic view.